how to deal with people who have greater wealth and greater status than you do. Stay tuned. This is Damon Cart from NLP Gym, and we're continuing this conversation. This is the second video of my conversation with Dr. Matt. So if you're just tuning in for the first time, let's go ahead and just give a quick rundown, a quick introduction. Dr. Matt and I have been attending a training in San Diego, California, and this is the first time we met, and we've just been having the most mind-blowing conversations. He does have a background in NLP, but he has a background in so many other things, which he calls interdisciplinary psychology. Right. And you also have a little bit of education behind you, huh?
Just a little bit. Just one small PhD title in economics with specialization in management personal branding, which I'm sure we will cover the next time. I've got master's degrees in law and psychology. I studied in Poland and Germany and other places. I've written 13 books so far on personal development and business consulting, because I believe one and the other are somehow interconnected, and you cannot have success and happiness in life without work-life balance, right? So that's why I'm creating tools using interdisciplinary psychology by learning from different fields in different places in the world, combining them into very practical, proven to work models which help us be successful in different situations.
Okay. Now, when he told me that he was very well known in Poland, there's a bit of an understatement. I looked them up, and yeah, you're a celebrity in Poland.
Yes.
And that doesn't just happen overnight.
No, it does not.
Yeah.
Unless you do something very, very stupid. But even then, you have to be someone famous to become more famous.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So.
And when you started talking about status,
right,
and how to deal with people who are of higher status, I would have to imagine you have a lot of experience in that area as you climbed your way up and became as well known as you are. I mean, you probably, started off small and were in constant contact with people of much higher status than you.
Right. Then you're talking basically about two very interesting models. Is it organic growth or it's revolutionary growth, right? Revolutionary growth is that you become famous overnight because of something that you do. Say you post some really good video, which I hope that your videos will become, right, on YouTube, and it becomes a viral video. Then after a certain amount of clicks, people click it, not for content anymore, but because others clicked it, right? So it's bandwagon effect, right? People simply do it because others did it, and it becomes somehow socially stimulated event. This is what happens revolutionary, but revolutionary is like this, and it doesn't mean that the success can be repeated. So it's not good for long-term business. Organic growth is slower, but you build it step by step, and this is how you, for example, construct fame, which is one of the executions or realizations of status, right?
Yeah.
Because,
well, I was going to say, and where I come from, where I live right now, California, I live about 35 miles south of Silicon Valley, and there is the highest concentration of wealth in that area, which also means it's a high concentration of power. We're talking Steve Jobs, lived there when he was still alive. The top people in the world, as far as technology goes, lives right around the area that I live in, and that you can see the power dynamics and status at play, especially when I lived in Los Angeles. You encounter this all the time. There's always that power play.
See, you're talking about American or standardized globally attitude to success, right? Power is money, right? Money is power, and so on. This game is not necessarily so widespread and global as it seems to be, because status means position inside the hierarchy, right? In the tribe. There's a group of people, right? If it's the tribe of humans, it's 7 billion people. If it's tribe of Americans, it's 300 million, and so on and so on. If it's Silicon Valley, what is power in Silicon Valley not necessarily will be power in Idaho, for example, right? So it all depends in which kind of environment you are, so that you calibrate what kind of weapons are used to climb this social ladder, right? It's very important also to understand that we're talking about a game, right? This is a game, it's like a computer game, but it's a social game, it happens between humans. Spiritually, we're even, right? You're a soul, I'm a soul, and we're made of the same material, we're biologically really very, very similar. The point is that there is hierarchy, even though people don't want to admit it, which exists in the external world, right? It exists in different concepts. It exists in the army because there's titles, right? General is of higher status than the colonel, right? Of course, right? Church, right? It's the same thing. Pope being on top of the list. School, right? You have someone who has master's degrees or PhD, right? And so on and so on.
That's what I was going to say. It's inescapable. Everybody encounters hierarchy.
Of course.
And everybody encounters people of higher status than them and of lower status than them.
There you go.
And from my own personal experience and for people who I coach, this is a common occurrence where you're encountering someone who is of higher status and it affects your self-esteem.
Of course.
Or it affects your ability to communicate.
This is interesting you're saying this. I remember I was working as a consultant with bankers who were dealing with very rich individuals, right? And then they would come to me and say, Dr. Matt, we're not feeling very well because our self-esteem goes down, right? When we're talking to them, and they go, why does this happen? And they say, because they are better than we are, right? And they go, oh, this is such a typical mistake based on generalization. They are better in what? And this is when they started thinking, right? They say, okay, if they're better in something, it means I've got status. I am better in something else, right? This creates partnership because if someone has more money, it doesn't necessarily mean that they have some other things which are necessary for them to function, right? For example, what can give status? We spoke about money, perfect. But beauty is also status, right? Depending on which culture you go to, it's understood in a completely different way, right? Colombian beauty is different than Brazilian beauty, is different than Silicon Valley beauty, is different than European beauty. So you need to calibrate and understand what kind of representation of this status game they have here. Education and the title that you have. The title doesn't have to be only the title you get from university. It can be marketing title. For example, he's the best trainer I've ever met. He's the most interesting person I've ever known. He's the most fantastic YouTuber you will ever see, and so on and so on. This is not something you get from school. It's a marketing title. But even within a smaller group, if people call you, he's the best friend of mine, he's very trustworthy, it is a title. It gives them status, right? So in every tribe, you will have certain hierarchy, right? And people will climb the ladder. Your task is to firstly separate yourself from this game by saying, this is the same person as I am when it comes to our anatomy, biology, and spirituality. And now let's play the game. What's important here? How do people get status, right? Once you understand this, you can help them function in their role which they have, because they are actors, right? There's a scene, and the story goes like this. If we go, say, to LA, and if I'm wrong, correct me, because you're a local, right? If I go to LA and I get myself a very posh sports car, then I'm of higher status, right?
Instantly.
Instantly, perfect, right? So it even happens when I rent this car, even if I don't own it. Right? There you go, right? So as you can see, it is a game, right? Once this appears, now I go like this. Okay, so this is how people play this game. They think that if they have a car, they mean something, right? Now I can do two things. Firstly, I can pace it, which means, okay, I'm going to work hard, I'm going to get myself this car as well, or even better, so that they are here, and I go here on this ladder, right? I just climb higher, so I get status. Or another thing, okay, they use this weapon, which is a car, I can use something else that they don't have, right? I'll give you an example. You have two men on the streets of LA. One is self-confident and has a car. Another is self-confident and doesn't have a car, right? And here comes the question. Whom will people consider to be more self-confident? The one with the car or without?
Well, I would say the person without the car.
Of course.
Yeah.
This is the point, Damon. Because people see that he got his self-esteem without external measures. As you can see, the guy who is not wealthy, right? Because we can always explain, I don't have money, so I'm not of high status, right? Not necessarily. You can be, even for free, if you understand the rules of the game, right? Because someone becomes self-confident by the means of the car. Another one becomes self-confident by the way they do sports and they become very fit and muscular. Another one has such a high self-esteem because they practice psychology or NLP or anything else that they behave in such a way that they beam this self-confidence outside. And self-confidence is also a way to execute status, right? So always when I meet a person of, say, higher or lesser status, I will ask myself a question, higher or lesser when it comes to what? So maybe I would be suggesting these bankers, these people have more money than you do, but you have something that they don't. You have knowledge how to manage their accounts. You have knowledge how the market functions. They don't understand it as well as you do. So there's certain aspects in which they are of a higher status, like money, but when it comes to knowledge, you're of a higher status. So you never compete with others in the area or in the context in which you're a lesser status. You go to a different context in which you're of a higher status, and now you can fight. Yeah. If you're a boxer, right, and you know boxing very well, there's no sense to come closer to you because you will punch me. But if I know kickboxing, right, or wrestling, I can either kick you from the distance, or if I'm a wrestler, I can bring you down, right, knock you down, and do some Brazilian jiu-jitsu, right, and choke you, not permitting you to use your ability. And this is simply a game. And if you understand this dynamic, you help the other person who is of a certain status to execute their role as if it was a theater. Because someone who, say, is a professor, right? What does a professor want? Professor wants to have authority and show that they are knowledgeable. If you're a student and you understand this, you will understand that it's good to agree with the professor, not necessarily in a manipulative way, but your style of communication will be the following. Professor, this is very interesting what you said. I also noticed something else. What do you think about this? So that you are helping them execute their position. If you become a rebel and you say, I know better than you do, this is where the conflict starts, right? So apart from calibrating the status and understanding what kind of weapon they are fighting with, which allows me to use different weapons inside this computer game that is a social game, I can also help the others to execute their role inside this game. If I understand that the professor needs to have authority, I will never take this authority away, because if I do, then I'm in conflict with this person, and I will never be able to succeed. The rule is the following. Learn the rules of the game, use these rules to get to the top, and change the rules.
I have to tell you, after I found out how popular you are in Poland, I kind of sat back and thought, I kind of had these status questions, you know, like, I am certainly not that popular anywhere. And so I wondered how you viewed me, and I wonder how you viewed other people after, you know, when you're in Poland, you're used to being treated so differently, and you're used to having this very high status. And everything that you're just telling me right now is giving me so many insights into watching you operate with people, and including me, is that I never got a sense from you that you looked at anyone, myself included, as being of a lower status or higher status. Well, I was going to say, and if anything, I find you very uplifting all the time, and watching you with other people. Yeah, that you never once even implied a presupposition of like putting anyone down. I just see you uplifting people and like seeing, and we talked about this earlier today about seeing people's potential, and that makes them want to rise to that potential.
Because I understand it's a game. I understand it's a social game that I'm playing. I'm playing it well. Thank you very much. At the same time, I'm playing the game, but I'm not a pawn inside this game. I'm rather an architect of this game. So if I understand that status is necessary to have advantage in the system because it gives you power, then I will observe what gives this status inside this game, inside a certain culture. I've got PhD, I've got 2 master degrees, I've written 13 books, I am fit because I wrestle a lot, and so on. I've got family, and so on and so on. So I observe the situation and go, what else do I need to do in order to get more status? Having lectured in 7 languages, this gives me status. Can you plan it? Yes, of course. Give yourself a very intensive week with us during fast languages, or spend a year or 2 if you are more on the lazy side, learn a language, and you will automatically be of a higher status. It's not that you are born with it, because it's not aristocracy anymore. You learn it, you acquire it, and you deal with it. So I detach myself from it in a sense that it's like relationship between Peter Parker and Spider-Man, right? If I'm Peter Parker, then Spider-Man is my personal brand of status. I put the clothes of Spider-Man when I go outside and I'm inside the game, but when I come back home, I take it off and I have a burger with you, right? So it also helped us to connect, and it's very, very important that you never played this game with me, treating me as someone of a higher or lesser status because you didn't know who I am. And this is fantastic because it happens constantly. When I'm, for instance, in the street and someone comes up to take a picture or something, and it happens a lot, then people don't treat me as a human being, they treat me as an image that has been produced, right? They don't realize that I'm the creator of this image, but I'm not the image, right? You cannot judge a person on the basis of the position they have inside the tribe, because it's very simple to change the context and they will not have this power. Example, how many war hero veterans come back from war, and even though in the army they had very high status, on the market they don't exist in such a way.
So true, it's such a problem.
Of course. How many people who are in prisons, they are of a very high status inside the tribe, they come out and they don't mean a thing socially.
It's so true.
So see, this is the point. Say you have a CEO of a very big Silicon Valley company. People go, treat him like God, right? They don't realize that when he comes back home, his wife says, take your shoes off, John. Take your shoes off, Johnny. I'm telling you. She uses the motherly finger. Yeah. Take your shoes off. And she says, oh, I'm sorry. And this is it. So what happens with the status? He got out of the game. The point is that his wife is connected to Johnny. We are connected to CEO. So if I change the role with which I'm communicating, he can be Johnny for me too. And then he has no status. So we changed the rules of the game.
So, a few things there. First of all, I want to say, with your understandings, you could be a very, very dangerous man, and I'm very, very happy you're on the light side, not the dark side.
Thank you very much. I'm doing my best. But don't you tease me.
And now I understand, because he and having conversations with Dr. Matt, he often will bring up his family, his wife and his daughter. And I can understand now with the way you were talking about those analogies there, that your family is probably very grounding for you whenever you're living in this celebrity world in Poland.
It's protecting me from my darker side of myself. That's what I would say.
Which we all have.
Yes, sure.
We can't, I hate it when people say, well, I don't have a dark side. That
is
not true.
This Damon is apart from two of us. Everyone has, but we don't, right? We're special.
Just because we're on YouTube.
There you go. There you go.
Okay. Well, that is yet another mind-blowing subject discussing with Dr. Matt, and again, we could talk about this all day, and we have been talking about it all week, and so we're going to move on to another topic on the next video, so stay tuned for the next video coming out.
Thank you very much.
Check out my website, nlp-gym.com. There you will find some free NLP training. All you have to do is enter your email address, and the training will get emailed to you daily for 30 days. If you like this video, please click like right down here. And if you have a question or a comment, please leave it down below. I will get back to you. Also, please subscribe to this channel by hitting the subscribe button right down here, and click the little bell so you get notifications when new videos come out. If you have any ideas or requests for future videos, please let me know what those are too. Take care.